Hello, my name is Jamila McMallow, and I'm a mindset coach and relationship expert. And I want to welcome you to part two, When Your Father Was a Bad Example of a Man. Now, this five-part Healing Your Daddy Issues training is something that I've created to help women who have built a successful career or business and yet still find themselves struggling when it comes to having happy, healthy relationships with men. And this can be true whether you're single, divorced, or if you're even currently married to a good man, but experiencing some challenges in your relationship. So if you had a childhood relationship with your father that was less than ideal, then you are definitely going to benefit from this series. So, and the other thing I'll say is this: our parents were imperfect. So no matter what our situation was, we all have daddy issues. We all have mommy issues because our parents could not give us what they didn't have. And because they are imperfect, none of them got it 100% right. And by us exploring this and doing a deep dive into healing our daddy issues, it does not dismiss the good that they did do. It does not mean that you're ungrateful or disloyal. We are simply acknowledging how you experienced your father's presence or absence. And when I launch the mommy series, then it'll be how you experienced her presence or absence. Okay. So I just want to say that because this might be the first part that you're joining in. Maybe you missed part one. So just to get started, I want to let you know a little bit about myself. If this is your first time tuning in, and reintroduce myself again, I'm Jamila McMallow. I'm a mindset coach, relationship expert. I have been coaching and mentoring for over 20 years in a variety of professional settings. I've been focused on this area of transformational coaching and helping women since 2018. Now, I have been helping women since 2010. I started then helping them with like their fitness and their health and things like that. And that certainly is a transformation. So if you want to count that, technically, I've been helping women to transform since 2010. Okay. Now, the reason why I'm so passionate about what it is that I do, the reason why I am like, oh, when it comes to healing the childhood trauma that is directly responsible for why women struggle in relationships with men is because I myself went through a painful, toxic relationship. It was a 14-year marriage that ended in divorce. The marriage itself was toxic. And, when I came out of it, of course, I was hurt, sad, all of those things. But I took that time to focus on myself and to get in touch with what about me needed to change so that I never attracted a man like that again and never found myself in a relationship like that again. So I took my power back, stood in my power, took ownership and responsibility for my choices because I chose him and I chose poorly. So I had to own that. And when I owned that, then I was able to recognize, okay, I need to change me, and then I will be able to attract a higher caliber, higher quality man, someone of good character, integrity, etc., etc. And so that is my whole philosophy as I focus on helping women to become the woman that has happy, healthy relationships with good men, thereby attracting good men, thereby showing up in her relationship if she's married in a healthy way. If she's married, if she's married to a good man, she's got to be bringing hers too. It can't it's not just all on him. So this philosophy of, oh, you just need to find the right man. No, that has nothing to do with it. You just need to get right. And then you will be attracted to what is right. See, your relationship attraction pattern, that means what you are attracted to right now could be toxic. Think about your relationships. If all your past relationships were toxic men, abusive, kind of crazy type situations, then your relationship attraction pattern might be skewed towards toxicity. And that can be true even if you chose wisely and married a good man, right? You went against the grain. And that is why, if you are married to a good man, you may be feeling unfulfilled and unsatisfied because he's so far outside of what your brain believes to be normal. Okay. Now, if you didn't get a chance to watch part one, I would highly recommend that you do so that you get the full scope, because this particular topic that we're going to be talking about today is if your father was a bad example. But, each day is going to be focused on a different aspect of your relationship with your father. One or two or all may apply to you, or maybe just one, but you want to take it all in so that you can get the full benefit from the full training that I've put together for you, because I really want you to have that shift, that breakthrough, that transformation, that understanding. No, we're not going to solve all of your daddy issues in this series, right? More is required, but this is absolutely going to help you to crack the egg open and for you to start getting to the bottom of some of the ways and reasons why you're showing up in relationships the way that you are and why you're attracting the type of men that you are into your life. Okay, so let's move along. Now I want to share some client results with you. I want to share my client Anya. She actually, her parents were both scientists or engineers. They were very successful. They had great careers. Unfortunately, her father was emotionally and physically abusive to her mother in particular, and he was an alcoholic. So their marriage ended up in divorce. And as a result of living in that toxicity and then, dealing with the hardship, the aftermath of, a single parent household, she grew up and she lived through 2 toxic abusive marriages. She basically married men that mirrored her father. And because her mother never got remarried, it's not like she had anything to compare it against. So she lived what she learned and she married 2 abusive men. And when she came to me, her second marriage had just ended a couple of years prior. And after our time together, she said how amazing she felt and that her only regret is that she didn't do this for herself sooner. She had been carrying all of this weight, this pain, this trauma since childhood, and now she was able to release it and let it go. And she had a new outlook on her life. She knew exactly what she wanted in a relationship with a man, which was clarity she never had before. And she herself became a different person. She had greater self-esteem, greater self-confidence, and she felt beautiful because her physical appearance was something that she always hated about herself. But through our work together, she was able to heal that part of herself. And so now she's going out happy, healed, and whole when it comes to attracting a man and getting into a new relationship. Now, the first area that we're going to focus on in this training is we're going to be really digging into beliefs, because when your father was a bad example, what you created was certain beliefs about men because you were looking at him and his behavior every single day. And that, little kids look and go, and so they think in very black and white terms and go, okay, he does this, so this is what I can expect from men. So the belief that men can't be trusted. So if your father, maybe he cheated on your mother, or he was a gambler, right? He squandered the family's resources, then you may have grown up with this belief that men can't be trusted. And so how that shows up in your relationships with men is you may feel insecure. And so you may do things to constantly test the loyalty of the man that you're in the relationship with, like, checking his phone or just doing little silly stuff to just try to make him prove, that he still loves you. And that kind of leads into the second point, which is that if you feel that men can't be trusted, it's like you need this constant reassurance that he's attracted to you, that he still loves you, because you just don't trust the fact that he's all in to the relationship and that you're the only woman that he could possibly care for, love, etc. And you can see how our first part in part 1, how some of those things that came from, let's say, for example, your father abandoned the family, but maybe you had a relationship with him on and off. And so, because he could be both, he could have abandoned the family and been a bad example. He might have been around for a while and then he was gone. And so you get kind of, unfortunately, I don't want to say the benefit, but the effect of both of those. So you see how this is building and coming together. And what I really want you to do is, I forgot to say it again, get a paper and pen, because I really want you to take notes. And I want you to identify where you see yourself, where you see this showing up in your life right now, in your relationships with men. If you're currently in a relationship, in your past relationships, or if you're married, how are you bringing this stuff to the table? How is this showing up in your life right now? Okay. Now, the other thing, if you have this belief that men can't be trusted, is you're going to keep your walls up. You are going to stay guarded, meaning you stay ready. You're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. When things are going good, you never trust it. you never trust it, and you almost tend to kind of sabotage it, like just push him to the point to where whatever it was stops working. And then you're able to feel like, yeah, see, I knew it wasn't, or yeah, I knew that, because your brain is simply trying to prove you right. And if you don't believe men that can be trusted, and you're actually with a man that's trustworthy, then you're going to be doing all these things to him to try to prove to yourself that he's not trustworthy. And you're going to try to take something and push it out of context. And sometimes when we treat people a certain way, we can cause them to give up and feel like, well, you know what? Fine, if that's the way you feel about me. Okay. Now, the other thing about this belief is that it causes you to never 100% be all into the relationship, because remember, you can't trust him. And if you don't trust him, what does that mean? You don't feel safe. So when you don't feel safe, do you know what state you're constantly in? Fight or flight. But you're really about that flight, because you're ready. You're ready to go. You're not leaning on him, relying on him for hardly diddly squat. You're ready. You're always ready. You're prepared for the worst. Okay. And then when it happens, you think you're so smart and you were so justified about the way that you do things, not really understanding that your relationship attraction pattern attracts men that are untrustworthy, so that you can be proved right in your belief that men can't be trusted. See how that works? So this is a belief that you definitely, you can't gloss over this, because trust is fundamental. It is the foundation of any healthy relationship. And if you don't have it for the man, for the guy that you're with or your husband, it's not going to work. It's never going to work. Okay. Another belief that you may have internalized, if your father was a bad example, and this would really be based on how he treated your mother, could have even been how he treated you. I had a client whose both her parents were verbally and physically abusive towards her. And, she just got it from both. And so men, this is how they act, right? They yell and they fight and they scream, and then her parents fought with each other. And so when you grow up in that type of an environment, you believe that mistreatment is normal, basically. So like I said, that yelling and that fighting, that's normal to you because you grew up in it. And so when you get into a relationship with a man and he's treating you that way, and you're arguing and you're fighting and you're not getting along, you don't see that as a red flag. You don't see that as anything. You might even say something crazy like, well, we're passionate. It shows how much emotion we have for each other, how much we love each other, and that we get so worked up when we fight. Do you know how twisted and toxic that thinking is? Okay. But this is where it comes from. If you believe that men are abusive, then what type of men are you going to attract? And what type of relationships are you going to constantly find yourself in? Okay. The other part of this belief is that you may not view emotional or verbal abuse as actual abuse. You'll say things like, he never laid a hand on me. And you'll say it with pride, as if, well, he never hit me, so therefore he never abused me. And you feel like you're doing one better than your mother because maybe she let your dad hit her and allow that relationship to continue. And so you feel like, well, at least he never hit me. Okay, but guess what has the more longer term scars? All the violent, vicious things he says to you when he's cussing you out. That's the stuff that sticks with you. The stuff that's validating all of your insecurities and negative things you think and feel about yourself. Physical wounds heal faster than emotional wounds because most of us don't know how to properly identify and release emotional pains and wounds. That's why people like me exist, to help people work through their pain and their trauma. Okay. Do you get what I'm saying? Now, the other part that can come out of this is if men are abusive and you grew up in a volatile home and you saw your father be that way towards your mother, both of them fight, whatever, or maybe she was, she didn't fight back, whatever the case is, you may have come out of that where you have very little to no respect for men, and you speak down to them very disrespectfully. And even though you want to be with one and you want the companionship, you like men, you want to be with, you want a happy, healthy relationship. When you get into the relationship, you find that you're like almost trying to outman him. Like, I'm not going to get punked, or you're not going to get me. I'm going to get you before you get me. And so you almost become the abuser, the verbal and the emotional abuser. Okay. And so If you have this belief that men are abusive, again, you're going to be thinking that mistreatment is normal. You're going to not view verbal and emotional abuse as maybe abuse. Or you may find yourself trying to be the aggressor so that you never feel like a victim. That could be your toxic way of trying to empower yourself rather than understanding that you are simply attracting the wrong type of man. And you need to change what's going on between your two ears, your relationship attraction pattern, what's going on in your brain, so that you're no longer activating and attracting men that are going to prove you right. You definitely don't want to be attracting men that are abusive. Not at all. Okay. And finally, this is our third belief we're going to discuss, is that men are unreliable. Woo, this is a big one. You feel like you must absolutely make your own money, and you are a staunch believer in the I don't need no man mentality. I did a whole live stream on this, but here's the thing. When you grow up with a father who did not provide well for the family financially, he, like I said, maybe he had a gambling problem. Maybe he just was into like trying to start different business ventures. Whatever the case was, he was irresponsible with the family's finances. And you saw your mother struggle and try to bootstrap to pay the bills to cover up for his lack of being a responsible provider and loving leader of his family. You know, he put himself ahead of his children. And so you internalize that to say, I will never be in this situation. I will take control of my finances. I will be responsible for me. That way I never have to rely on a man, because they can't be trusted and they're unreliable. And I've got to do it all on my own. And then you shout from the mountain, I don't need no man, but I want one, for the love and stuff, but I don't need one. And here's what I need you to understand is that a desire to be with a man, a need for companionship, is not the same as desperation. And simply because you're able to provide for yourself financially has nothing to do with whether or not you desire and need a man. Because the only reason why we get into relationships with men is not so that they can pay our bills. Okay? The second thing that may show up for you if you have this belief that men are unreliable is you become fiercely independent. You won't let a man do anything for you. So if you actually are dating a good man or married to a good man, it's this constant butting of the heads because you won't let him do the things that he wants to do for you because he loves you, because you don't want to start relying on him or feel weak or cater to or any of that because you're like, nah, because you don't trust it, because they're unreliable. You don't think he's going to keep doing it, or you don't trust him to do it the way that, you think it should be done. And so you also may create scenarios to where you set them up basically to fail, where you create these unrealistic expectations. And then when he doesn't meet them, you feel validated in your point. Okay. And all that is again, your brain simply trying to prove you right. Now, if you view men as unreliable, then it also means that you don't trust their judgment. You don't think they have the capacity to make wise decisions that involve you. And so, especially if you're married, you may find yourself not speaking with your husband before you make major decisions that might affect him, your kids, or your relationship, your household. You just take it upon yourself to make unilateral decisions without discussing it with him. Or if you're dating someone, perhaps you do the same. If you guys are in a serious relationship and you just accept a job on the other side of the country, you didn't even talk to him about it because you're like, I don't need his opinion. I don't want it. I have to do this for me. Well, okay, then you're not really, it's not a relationship. If it's all about you being independent and on your own, then you're not really trying to be in a relationship with someone, which is about the two people coming together. And so this belief, men are unreliable, is what's going to cause you to show up in your relationship in these ways. And I'm going to tell you, if you have found a good man, if you're married to a good man, this belief, all of these things right here, these are the things that are going to increase the lack of happiness, fulfillment, and joy in your marriage. Okay. And in your marriage or in your relationship, if you guys are just dating, either way, you're pushing him away from you. Okay. And if he's a good man, especially, you don't want to do that. Know that it's not your fault. You're not doing it intentionally. That's what this training is all about, is shining a light in these dark places so you can finally see, oh, that's what's going on, and then be empowered to do something about it, okay? Now, I want to share with you another client story. So one of my clients, she had a father who was extremely verbally abusive to her and her siblings. And he and her mom, they fought all the time. And he used to call her horrible names when she was growing up. And as a result, she got involved with lots of boys as a teenager, looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for that attention and that validation that her father never gave her. She eventually ended up getting married, and she went through a horrible divorce. And after that, every guy she dated continued to be, a toxic relationship. So when she and I started working together, she actually was on the tail end of a toxic relationship that she was still holding on to. But through our work together, through her healing her daddy issues, she was able to see how even in the past, when the man that she had been married to and the guy that she was currently involved with and previous ones that she had dated were all men who treated her just like her father did. And so as a result, she found the strength and the courage to end that toxic relationship and go forward and no longer find herself stuck in this horrible relationship attraction pattern. Okay. So the lesson, if your father was a bad example of a man when you were growing up, check it. Those wounds are still there. Okay. And even if he's an adult now, and even though you're an adult now, and maybe you guys have a great adult relationship, maybe you get along now, that doesn't change what happened in the past. That doesn't change the little unhealed girl that's inside of you. And you'll know it because she's still the one who's calling in the types of men that you're attracting into your life. Okay. So great that you have that relationship now, but you still got to do your work to heal the damage from that previous relationship that was either non-existent or not too great when you were growing up. Okay. Now, here's the thing. If you don't take the time to heal these wounds, then you're going to continue to attract men who display the toxic traits and qualities of your father, or you're going to show up in your relationships in an unhealthy way. And this is especially true, like I said, if you already have a good man, if you're already married, you're going to end up sabotaging the relationship because it does not fit with what your brain is telling you is true and possible for you. It is going against the grain of your relationship attraction pattern. And at the end of the day, your brain is always trying to prove you right. And it's just going to make life harder for you. And it's going to make the both of you very unhappy in that relationship. And so your job, now that you have this information, now that you understand, is to change your relationship attraction pattern so that now what is good, what is healthy, what is happy becomes what you're attracted to. Okay? I hope that makes sense. So my Get Real and Heal Your Love Life program is where we work together to unravel the trauma from your childhood and your previous relationships, the beliefs and the conditioning that's ruining, your opportunities for having a happy, healthy relationship with a good man. And the first step of the process, the first step I work through with every single one of my clients is healing their daddy issues. And I use written exercises, visualizations, powerful conversations. I don't use anything woo or anything like that. But most of my clients end up getting results within the first week of us working together, because that's just how strategic what I do is. And my secret sauce is because I'm able to quickly identify your pattern and the direct trauma that's responsible for it in childhood so that we can release that and you can be free of it and go on to attract and thrive in a happy, healthy relationship with a good man, really causing, like I said, because see, here's the thing. The brain is attracted to what is familiar, not what's good for you. You live what you learn. And so if you grew up in toxicity where your dad abandoned the family or where your dad was a bad example, then your brain is swirling with beliefs and conditioning around what your expectations can be when it comes to your relationships with men. And so when you do the work to shift that and you change your belief system so that it's no longer operating in a place of toxicity, but now in a place of what's healthy, you will completely transform your life and your relationships, okay? And so it is worth the effort. So what's next? Well, part 3 of this 5-part series on healing your daddy issues is if you were a daddy's girl. What? How's that possible? If I had a great relationship with my father, that doesn't mean I have daddy issues, does it? Like I said, yeah, it does, because we all have them. Why? Because none of our parents were perfect. We all have varying degrees of daddy issues and mommy issues. So let's just get real and deal with it. Okay. That's the point of this training, right? Now, if you're like, okay, Jamila, part 1 was like, wow. And now part 2, I'm like, gee, I got to do something about this. Then absolutely, you can book a call with me by visiting my website, coachjamila.com, and we can go from there to talk about what working together might look like. Please understand that when you schedule a call with me, you are going to be directed to a questionnaire that's going to allow me to get the information that I need about your background that helps me to quickly identify your relationship attraction pattern and therefore our plan of action for allowing you to heal those things that are keeping you from having the happy, healthy relationships with men or with your man, your husband that you desire. All right. So I hope that you enjoyed this training, and I look forward to seeing you in part 3.